What if one day I come and tell you that you're not reading your business cases in a right way? What if I tell you that you're doing it wrong and you might not be able to get much information out of it or extract much information out of it? What would be your reaction? You might feel like sometimes when you're reading business cases, you might feel like I'm drowning in a sea of words. It's totally fine because it happens with everyone. Fear not. In this video, I will try and attempt to try to tell you how you guys can read your business cases effectively.
In this case, if you're reading from the first level, maybe for a class discussion which is supposed to take place, let's say in like 20 minutes, and you're given this case, then how you will interpret this case. So, for example, the title of this case doesn't give me a lot, like meat puppets. I don't know what this means, but I do know the second line, that there is an ethical dilemma in a restaurant setting. So I know that there's some ethical dilemma which is going to take place in a restaurant setting, and it's fine for me. So I see, whenever you get a case, what you have to do is go through each page, and each page will definitely have a heading like this. So there's an introduction heading, the entrepreneur, there's this exhibit, the restaurant, then a few exhibits more, nose to tail philosophy, the dilemma. So it kind of sums me and gives me an introduction, a brief introduction, and how the case is going to proceed. So I'm not going to read it word by word, okay, like what happened on 5th April. Some guy who was a Russian restaurateur with more than 10 years of experience received an unusual message. Okay, so if you read just the first line, that's it. That's all you need to do. So receives an unusual message. That's fine. So I read that there's an unusual message on Facebook that he has received. I don't want to know the date. I don't know what he wants to do. I mean, definitely, if you are studying for a long-term perspective, then it's fine to go by word by word. But if there's a discussion that's going to take place in like 10 or 15 minutes, this is how you can read fast. It doesn't matter what is your reading speed, what is your words per minute. You don't have to mug up anything. All you need to do is store in information in your short-term memory, and you'll do this only by looking on the first line or the second line, because that's going to give you a lot of information. So this particular one line here, received an unusual message on Facebook, is a very important line, and that's fine. Okay. There's nothing else in that whole passage which actually, if you just skim and see that, you won't find anything that's very informative. The second passage here after the first exhibit says that the message came from a young pregnant woman. Okay, so young pregnant, why will the author tell me that the woman is pregnant if it is not important? So the author won't give me this pregnancy information if it wasn't important. So young pregnant, that definitely pregnancy has to do something with the whole passage. So young pregnant is coming, that means it's an important line. And then so she probably visited a restaurant, and the visit did not go well. um, she wanted steaks well done, but that was refused by the staff based on no steaks well done policy. Okay, that's it. That's the dilemma situation. We've got to know what the issue was. We've got to know what the I'm sorry for that line, but yeah, we know what the issue was. So we're going to proceed with it, right? But okay, it also asks a opening question to us, which is important, and that is, but maybe a pregnant woman deserved an exception. Still undecided, he shared the message with 5,000 followers in Facebook post. What followed was a reaction he least expected. Okay, that's fine. And this is the issue. The issue is, but maybe a pregnant woman deserved an exception. That's the issue. Okay, I'm going to move forward. Now, when I'm reading, and I have to read in under 10 minutes with a lot of noise around me, what I'll do is focus on particular points. I won't read this, I won't read. I'll just completely skip the entrepreneurial part. Dimitri was born and raised in a typical Soviet family in small industry. I don't want to know. So I'm just going to skip this part. I'm going to skip this part because it won't give me much of the information that I would need. For sure, it will have like informative points, but it won't give me anything to contribute in the class. So I'm just going to skip this. And after skipping, I'm going to look at the exhibit 2. The exhibit 2 here are listing me key dates and projects. which give me a lot of information. So I can just sum up. The author kind of sums up everything he's talked about in in these entire four passages in one exhibit. So this exhibit is nice to look forward to. Dolls and Pistols was a bar that he opened in 2008, and then he continues talking about it. My Bar, My Rules is the first book presented at Gas Street Gas Street Show 2018. So it kind of tells me a whole decade of operations that he has done. Never worked as a restaurant director. He didn't have a proper degree. So yeah, never worked as a restaurant director. Neither he did he get a proper degree in restaurant management. Also sums up a lot of important stuff for us, right? That he did not have a proper degree in restaurant management, so that might indicate lack of education or lack of decision making skills. Empowering was always the cornerstone of the business. Okay, that's fine. Okay, the code of conduct was good. It was nice. Then it talks about the restaurant. 2015 was a tough year for the Russian economy. Okay, I'm fine with that. Again, that's not serving my purpose of the dilemma situation. So we need to jump onto the dilemma situation which was there. Now, this is the fourth exhibit which talks about how the marketing was done. I can probably see, okay, long beard and beefsteaks being advertised. That's fine. There was no lack of steakhouses in Moscow. Dmitry had to make a meat restaurant qualitatively different to everything. Well, that's fine. Again, doesn't give me a lot of information about what the exact dilemma was. So I want to know the dilemma situation. What I'm going to do is completely skip and go to the seventh page, which talks about the dilemma situation. And now the dilemma situation talks about this part, and this one here in April 2018, which was apparently the date she messaged the restaurateur Dimitri. So in April 2018, we know now we know what's happening. So this is the whole story which is being recited of what happened with the woman in the restaurant. So here we know the scenario. This the first para is indicating us the scenario. We still don't know the situation of dilemma. The situation of dilemma will probably be in the second passage. So the waiter told her the restaurant's concept was to serve only juicy steaks that give the full spectrum of flavors. That's why it's not possible what she's asking for. So okay, we know what is happening. The restaurant's concept is not aligning with what the um with what the pregnant woman is asking us to do. So she agreed that the marketing concept was certainly important. However, she said an exception could be made for the pregnant woman. Now, could an exception be made? That's the question. So she probably messaged the guy on Facebook. This was the guy probably, yes, and he then posted it amongst his employees, and you can see like 7.7K comments. He's got a good reach for sure. But at the end, you will definitely find a few research questions or some questions that you need to find answers of. So the post went immediately viral. There were more than 1,500 comments, ranging from empathetic words of support to complete disapproval of a request of the menu. Was it ethical for the team? Okay, now the questions arise. Was it ethical for the restaurant team to refuse? Did he have reasonable grounds to pursue such marketing strategy? What was the right thing to do to resolve this situation? And the post generated a buzz, but was it ethical to share the message on Facebook? So this is apparently everything that is being discussed, and you get the main idea and the main passage of what things are going to be discussed about. So you need to look to the questions and then find answers from the passage, or possible answers or inferences that you can find out. So we probably know the page 3 or page 4 is talking about that he doesn't hold a degree in restaurant management, and that kind of gives me an answer of that he does not have a good experience with restaurants. But the fact that he has been owning restaurants and he's been running a chain, that kind of gives me a situation of dilemma which I have to address. Then a few appendix here that talks about how marketing was done and what the menu was. After that, there's a whole chat which is presented here. The chat again could be skipped. could be skipped definitely. Commentary on the situation, right? So then there are people who are saying, and you can definitely look at these people and then develop your own inferences. So yes, the writer to establish her own rules. Given those rules, don't break the laws. So this guy is apparently saying that yes, the restaurant, the guy had the full rights of doing everything he's done. Private business has the full moral right to introduce any rules. That's why it's private. Ideally, these rules should be communicated. So you kind of get an idea of where the conversation is going, right? And it has an internal code of conduct. So everyone here is supporting the guy, or some would also support the girl. So you can take both sides, or you can take one side and then discuss. So this is how you go through 11 pages. And this is why I took like more time to explain, because I was explaining the nose to tail philosophy is definitely telling me about the marketing strategy that it followed, and even the restaurant is talking about the the marketing strategy it followed. But because I took a lot of time to explain you guys of how you can read a case, but it will take me like only 5 to 6 minutes, even in a noisy background, to go through the case and understand and then contribute.
If you're still wondering how you can go through the case in the entire case in such a short time, come closer. I'll tell you some more tips and more tricks. The first one is to skim the entire text. The first one is to skim the entire text. You can go through the headings, the subheadings, the bold words, the italicized words. Once you get through all of them, you can create an entire frame in your mind, an entire narrow frame in your mind that will tell you and will give you the idea of the main concepts that are being discussed in the entire case. So once you can look for keywords, once you can look for the main idea to grasp the key concepts, I think you should be clear. Now, here comes the major part, and something that will help you a lot in your examinations as well. It is to relate the concepts of the business case to real world examples or experiences to enhance comprehension. If you do that, I think you are able to make connections. It will help you remember, it will help you apply the information more effectively, both in exams, both in a real organizational world. After the initial reading, you can review the case, of course, but you can reflect on the key takeaways and stuff. But I think if you can connect real world connections, if you can have real world connections with the entire business case, I'm sure you'll be able to contribute wisely, contribute effectively, have an effective communication with the professor, with the peers, and apart from that, also score good marks if you mention that in your end sem papers or your mid sem papers or your research works even. One very important thing is that you should know how to summarize an entire passage. So train yourself in such a way that you can summarize paragraphs or sections in your own words. If you need a video of how I do it, I'll definitely make one for you. But summarizing will help you drill the complex stuff into very small pieces of information, manageable chunks. You can probably create a mnemonics, and that will kind of help you in summarizing. Even what you can do is, with a pencil, start underlining or start highlighting the entire passage. um, Once you read that passage, you can just pinpoint and like draw an arrow and write down what in one word what that passage told you about. That's also one way of doing it. One thing that I used to follow was to highlight a lot of points. That's one mistake that people make, and that's one mistake that many students make. When you try to highlight, you take a pen and you start highlighting, and at one moment you will feel that everything is so important that you keep on highlighting every paragraph you read. So I think that kind of there's this bare minimum chance that might take away your attention, and you might not be able to engagingly read and effectively read the passage. So it's important to look for, uh, as I told you, the important sections and the important words. But I think I don't prefer, like, highlighting every stuff I read. But yeah, if you feel that this is something very major and very major point that you might want to look back after, or maybe question the professor in the class or question any student, you might highlight. But everything is fine. What about your mindset? What about your head? You need to develop a critical mindset. And now that sounds like very, very boring, right? But it's not. Trust me, it's not. You can develop a critical mindset to evaluate the validity of the arguments and to assess the quality of that presented valuation. For that, either if the phones are allowed in class and if the professor is fine with you using the phone to examine the case, you can definitely refer the net. But if that is not an option to you, then try to develop and analyze the situation on spot and think of anything that you might have read about it, then that you might have come across in the news for the last 30-45 days. If you're active on Instagram, follow pages that actually give you news and headlines, and there are so many in shots that the app so many applications that tell you about the current affairs going on. So if you can do that, for example, we talk about the Yes Bank scandal. So Yes Bank scandal was in the news for a very long time. The Wells Fargo scandal was in the news for a very long time. So if you know bits and pieces of that information, you can definitely connect that part of news with the case. If the phones are allowed, then I think it's like pretty easy to do it. After doing this, the entire case will have a lot of key sections. Some will be unimportant key sections, some would be very important key sections. It's your duty to recognize the major sections of the business case. And it's generally in that case, in the case which I discussed, the dilemma situation was a major section of the business case. So for you, you need to decide and you need to take that decision of what is my major section, what is my background, what is the problem statement saying. Problem statements are generally mentioned in the opening pages, in the initial pages. Go through the analysis after reading the problem statement, then go to the conclusion, and then go for the recommendations. So once you go and follow this timeline, I'm sure you will be able to find your key sections and then analyze and contribute to the class thereafter. And a bonus point at the end: practice speed reading techniques such as like minimizing subvocalization, minimize your inner voice, expand your focus attention, your peripheral vision, so that you can read like multiple words at the same time instead of reading like focusing on just one individual word and not going word by word. So like try to have a wider vision so that you can take in a lot of information at the same time, just like a robot would, right? So that's pretty much it. That's pretty much all the tips that I wanted to give you. I tried to show you how I do it through a case. I'll try to make more videos. I'll also was planning to make a video on how to read and how to scan exhibits effectively. Probably that's one case that I'll definitely try to do in the coming weeks. And in the coming weeks, you'll also see a lot of college videos because a lot of DMs have been coming these days. Is my college worth it or not? So I'm probably thinking to make a video on that as well. There's a lot of new things that my college has had in this semester, and I have not recorded a video yet. So keep on watching, and I'll come with a fresh episode very, very soon. Till then, bye bye. Happy learning.